Hi Nels.
Buenos dias and hi from Spain.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful day in October on the Costa del Sol in Spain. This is Cabapino Beach. I'm just panning around so people can see the scenery. Beautiful spot, clear blue sky. It's about 24 degrees, 23, 24 degrees, perfect in October. So there's a topic you want to talk about, Nels, with to do with couples, I think. Is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Is it to do with why couples get into bickering and arguing?
Yes.
And what to do about it?
Yeah.
Okay, so how would you like to start off then?
Okay, so why do couples bicker and argue? There are several elements to this. The main one is the desire to be right. So when we create a situation in our heads of I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to prove to you that I'm right and that you're wrong. And a lot of this comes from what I call the fear of the five. So underneath all of our negative emotions and feelings is the fear of the five. And one of them is misunderstanding, the other one is confrontation. Then there's rejection and abandonment, and the most popular one, the most universal one of all is not enough of something. There's not enough respect, there's not enough understanding, and most importantly, I'm not enough. So let's talk about intention first of all, because that's where it's originating from. It's originating from what someone's intention is, and then how they are misunderstood. So your intention might be just to make a comment, and then if that comment is taken negatively by the other person might feel as though you are attacking them, being sarcastic, being bitchy, being rude, being disrespectful. And it's at that point that things start to deteriorate, because the comment is made and then it's received in a negative way from the other person because of their insecurity of what they think is happening. And then the person who made the comment wants to justify themselves. They want to prove that their intention wasn't to be sarcastic. So what they then do is they take the challenge from the other person, which might be, why are you talking to me in that sarcastic voice? And then they'll want to explain themselves. And that's very tricky for the other person to receive, because it's about subjective perspective. It's about our own reality and what we believe has happened. And so if the other person believes that the other spoke to them in a sarcastic tone, that is their experience. And to have that experience denied feels like rejection. It feels like a denial of their own reality. And this is what is so difficult for us to understand, is that our reality isn't someone else's reality. So it wasn't my intention to be sarcastic. Nevertheless, that's how I came across to you, so that is your reality. So rather than going into but I'm right because I know what my intention was, so you must be wrong, in thinking that I'm sarcastic. And then you're thinking, well, it sounded sarcastic to me, so I must be right and you must be wrong, or you must be lying. that's when the bickering starts and the arguing starts. So it's about being able to step out of what is right and what is wrong and into that is what the experience is.
Yeah.
And being able to empathise with the other about their experience.
Yeah. Okay. Can I ask a couple of questions about it?
Yeah.
So the first one is it fair to say that there's an element of point scoring that takes place in an intellectual way for a lot of couples? Like there's like an intellectual sparring, competing that takes place where neither wants to back down and they want to prove their point, and almost the original thing that got spoken about right at the beginning, whoever started it, gets lost, and it becomes almost like a mental competition between the two partners.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So it's called the power struggle, or excuse the pun, getting caught in the breakers. So most couples get caught up in the breakers of the waves where they just can't get out to the smooth water because they're both trying to prove their point, they're trying to prove that they're right, and they're trying to get the other person to believe their own reality over the other's reality. So this is about empathy. And obviously people are on the spectrum of everything. And so if you're more on the narcissistic spectrum, which means that you feel quite defensive, you feel that it's difficult for you to understand or comprehend someone else's reality, or you struggle to empathise, and you have an inclination to feel criticised and attacked, then it's going to be much harder for you to take on board subjective perspective. That is what someone else's experience is of the situation. So we're very much working with empathy here.
Yeah.
So rather than I'm right and you're wrong, it's I understand that I came across to you as being sarcastic, and I don't want to come across that way, so give me a chance to rephrase.
Yeah.
So it's not so much about apologising, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, or no, you're wrong, I wasn't sarcastic. It's about validating the other person's reality.
Sure.
Which can sound quite patronising.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I can take on board that you thought I was being sarcastic. And I'm sorry I came across that way. Do you want me to rephrase what I said, or should we just move on?
Yeah.
And then it doesn't become about the sorry or the right or the wrong. It's really about giving someone a little bit of validation because of their own experience of you.
Yeah. Even though your reality might be still in your own head completely different to their reality, it's not about sticking to that reality, is it? It's about listening to their reality and understanding that there's more than one. Yeah, is that right?
Yeah, absolutely, because we're coming from an insecure place. When we take offence at something, it's coming from a place of I'm not enough, there's not enough, it's not enough. A sense of rejection, or a sense of abandonment, a sense of misunderstanding. So the other person is feeling a little bit insecure, which is why you've been able to evoke a negative emotional feeling in them in the first place.
Yeah. And I know there's linked to this, something that I've always struggled with in the past is this situation where I think a lot of people struggle with this, where you struggle for people to disagree with your opinion about something. So you might just be talking about any particular generic subject matter, and you might have an opinion about it, and all of a sudden your partner disagrees with you. You just both have different opinions about something, and I sometimes struggle with that. I find myself trying to convince you to come around to my way of thinking, and it becomes something that I have to do. I have to change your mind, and if I don't change your mind, it's just going to go on and on and on. Is that pretty common, do you think?
Yeah, that's really common, because we're frightened of difference, we're insecure about difference, so we're looking to be compatible, where we are the same as, and where there is a difference, that's harder for us to conceptualise, it's harder for us to take on board and be curious about. So there it's a question of trying to be curious about the difference rather than afraid of it. So in order to debate and have a discussion rather than a disagreement, it's about being curious about difference.
Yeah.
And trying to take on board new ideas or new reference points, and being comfortable with difference rather than trying to persuade someone into thinking the way that you think or believing what you believe. Because again, that leads to arguments and disagreements rather than curious debates.
Okay. So what's your parting bit of advice then for couples that are just getting into this habit of bickering all the time? How would you advise them to break out of it?
So it's always trying to empathise with the other person's feelings around the experience that they're having, which may not be your feelings or your experience. So the empathy is very important, and coming away from the right or wrong or the agree and disagree, and just being understanding and curious. And also not focusing on saying sorry necessarily. You don't have to agree and say sorry to empathise. You just want to hear and understand.
Listen.
Yeah.
Shall we leave it there then?
Yeah? Okay.
Great. Well, hopefully that's of interest to some people, and we'll get ready for the next one, wherever that may be.